Hello and welcome to my instructional video on the iconic glaive from the 1983 movie Krull. As you can see, we've got an activation button in the middle, which is a 50mm rhinestone, and we've got a little key here which you use for putting the blades back into the housing. So we just push them in like so. And then it's ready for its next activation. If you're not already following me, please give me a follow, and if you enjoy the video, please give us a thumbs up. So after the glaive halves are all printed, you can then look at cleaning everything up. Mainly these edges where the mechanism sits. Take a sharp tool such as your X-Acto knife and just make sure that all of the edges where the printing is cleaned out so that it's nice and straight. And you also take your deburring tool, one of these, and just run it along the edges, just take away any of the roughness of where the supports were. And then once you've done that, just to get the shine back, just take the lighter to it, and then that'll bring your shine back on the outside edges. Don't go too fierce with the lighter though, just a light dab on it, otherwise you'll deform the edges. So it's just like heating it up just enough to that melting point so that you get your finish back. Fairly simple with the ring tops, excuse me, my voice going there. The gem surrounds, you can't really go wrong with those. You put the gem inside and then super glue these in place. Just be careful not put too much super glue on, because you may get it onto the gem. Just make sure that this gem is nice and free spinning and there's a little bit of wiggle room in it, enough to be able to push it down. So yeah, the video probably will jump about a little bit to and from places, but hopefully it will give you a good idea of how to assemble everything. So once you've got everything printed, the first thing you're going to want to do is a little bit of sanding. So get yourself a nice flat surface and your sandpaper. Just put the glaive down and give it a good sand on the edges, just to get rid of any sharp edges that go between the surfaces, so that when you put the two halves together you've got quite a nice surface. It's not going to be perfect because it's 3D printing, but it's going to be fairly close together, like so. Okay, so the next bit we're going to be looking at is the mechanism. So we've got the split parts here, which we've got to join up. So you want a nice flat surface, get your parts together. Now, if you're using super glue, obviously a little bit of glue just on this edge here and on the other edge, and then join them together. But I highly recommend that you use a soldering iron instead, because it's quite a lot neat to join. Let me show you. I've got my soldering iron. Right. So best to get the bits lined up nicely. do a little dab across, get it to hold. Just let that cool a little bit. And then on to the next one. Just run your soldering iron across it till it holds. And then once you've done that, just run it back and forth just across so that it penetrates a bit. And the same on this one. And then you want to come with your sandpaper again. Just tear a bit off there. And just smooth that out where you've soldered. And then we turn it over. Now, this is going to be a little bit more difficult because you're going to have to go onto the edge of the table there. That way you've got a flat surface because you've got that pin on this side that's holding you away from having a flat surface. So I'll pop it that way like that. Grab a soldering iron again. And just run across again. And the same on the other side. Like so. And that should be those pieces joined. Just gotta pay attention to make sure that this area here is free of any bumps or anything like that, because that's where the blade runs along. So you just need to give it another good sand. Make sure it's nice and smooth, and then just go on the inside here as well, just to make sure there's no lip there, so that the blade can run nice and freely. And then we're just going to grab a blade. And we're just going to pop that in and test it, just to make sure that it's not snagging anywhere and that it moves freely. That way when you put it in, it's not going to catch or anything like that. There we go. All moves nice and freely. So that's that part completed. Next you've got the button activation. So we pop that. Now you'll notice on here there's a little groove, and then on this piece there's also a little hole that just indicates where you need to put it. So at this point I was about to show you where you need to put your soldering iron and such like, but I got interrupted, so I had to cut the video and start fresh. Right, so this will just show you on this one where I used a nail to put the tab down. I'm going to demonstrate it again, and then I'll demonstrate how to do it with a soldering iron. So have your tab nice and flat, grab yourself a lighter and warm up your nail. Get it nice and hot. And then make sure that your piece is nice and flat, and then just push the nail down. And that will put your tab so that it's held and it's not going anywhere. So I'm going to do the same with all the others, but I'm going to do that with the soldering iron. I just find it a little bit easier. So we'll just go through that now. Just make sure that everything is flat. This one. And this one. And the last one. Let's just turn that round. And that's that section completed. That should be your mechanism ready to go on the assembly side of things. Okay, so now we're moving on to the test fitment of the mechanism. So you may notice that some of these tabs may or may not fit. It all depends on your tolerances on your printer, but they've been made slightly oversized so that they can be trimmed down to fit perfectly. So on mine, on this one, there are some areas that may need a little bit of trimming, but the majority of them fit quite nicely. I'll show you one that I've already trimmed down. This is one of the ones that was in the glaive to start with. I'm just going to take these off here. Take the blade out. So if you need to take the blades in or out, slide them down to about this position and then just push it and pull it, and then that will come out of the groove. Same on this one. Just slide it down and take it. And then this one. And the last one. There we go. So you'll notice on this one, let me take this one out. There are some areas where it has been trimmed to fit. Let's pop it in so you can see. Also on the orientation, there's a little indent on this one, and that just indicates that that's where it sits the best. So you've got a little dot here and a little dot here. Bottom in it. Right. Pop this one in, which is in that position there. So you can see all fits quite nicely. One thing you have to take into consideration is when it's inside, it needs to be flat in this area. If it isn't flat, it's going to cause problems with your mechanism. So you need to make sure that all these corners here fit okay. If they don't, just give them a little trim, a little shave off with a X-Acto blade or craft knife or such like, and then that should all be fine. Now I'm going to move on to the blade assembly. Okay, so these are the parts you need to be really careful with, because these are the blades and they are quite sharp for 3D prints. But what you need to be very careful of is these ends here. Now, if you've used the 3MF files, it should be fairly simple to take these out. Just break this piece away here. At the bottom. You may need a pair of pliers. Just fine. A pair of pliers or a pair of wire cutters, just to take this piece out here. And then try not to pay too much attention to doing the top supports, so as you'll see in a moment. If you can get the bottom free, and then pull it towards you, that should come out nicely without snapping any of the blade end, just like that. Okay, so the next thing you're going to want to do is to clean these edges where the supports were. Just get them nice and smooth so that when your rubber band goes on, you don't get any cutting into the rubber band, because I found with my earlier testing that leaving these edges on caused the rubber bands to split in half. So we just make sure that we get on that inner groove here with your bit of sandpaper. Just get it nice and smooth so that you've got no sharp edges on it. And then that should be ready for your rubber band. Yep. Right, we'll go on to the next part. Okay, so we're going to start assembling the blades onto the mechanism now. So just hook it underneath here, making sure that this piece is in line with your rail, so make it easier for getting it in. So then you just push it in, hook the other end round, and then twist it round, and that should be that in its rail. Then we get our rubber band, place it on the end here. Oh, slipped off. And then place it over your pin there. should be that in place. Okay, now we're going to move on to assemble it into the body. So you've just got to do that another 4 times on the other parts of the mechanism. Okay, with your blades now all assembled, all 5 in place, you now put them into your body, making sure that you have your little dot in the right place. There's the dot there and the dot here. So we'll just turn that round one. Put that into place like so. Just push the ends in. And now we need the other part. Now with this side, the star side, it doesn't matter too much if this turns or not. It's not used, so don't worry too much if your gem's too tight in it or such like. It all depends on your tolerances on your machine. I've tried to account for that mainly with this piece because different people's printers have different ways of behaving. So if I make this mechanism slightly bigger, you can trim it down with a pair of scissors, you can trim it down with X-Acto knife or such like. Just make sure that it all fits into the body, and especially make sure that these corners sit down flush, because if they don't, the mechanism will not work properly. So just make sure that it's not rubbing on any of these corners here, else it won't sit down flush. Then we can place this on top. Turn it over. And then we can start installing the screws. Quite handy with my Bamboo A1. I got an M2 hex, which was ideal for assembling these. So the screws that you're using are M2 by 16mm. And we pop those in the hole. So I skipped on a little bit there while I was putting the screws in. Right, now we can add the little covers. So these pieces as well, they're just glued in place. Same goes for these pieces as well, they're just all glued in place. And the reason for the screws and having the body so that you can split it in half is just in case you need to change out one of the rubber bands. Just makes it a little bit easier, because if you were to glue it, you wouldn't be able to get at them, not without reprinting a whole new glaive. Okay, so now your blades are all fully assembled and everything's in the body. We can get to the fun part. Get your blade tool. I don't recommend trying to push these in with your fingers because they are quite sharp. Push your blade in till it clicks. Last one. Okay, there we go. Now you can push your button, and that's all your blades activating. Okay, now we'll move on to the stand portion. So we'll have all your pieces printed. This piece, which is the nameplate, just glues in place. Then you've got your two pieces, your hand and your wrist. They're just slot together. You can glue them in place, but you don't need to if you don't want to. And then this piece just slots onto the body. It is quite a tight fit, so it does take a little bit of force to get it in place, just so that it doesn't move. Pop you out the way a moment. Right, then you can get your glaive. Now there's no right or wrong way to put it. There's various different options that you can use. You can hang it off there like so. You can have it a little bit upright. You can have it hanging off that piece. There's no right or wrong way. You have it however you want it. That's my personal favourite. Okay, now we move on to the wall mount, which requires one M4 threaded screw. That's just for putting this piece on. Don't go too tight with it, but obviously don't go too loose either. You want it so that you'll be able to swivel it still, so you can get the glaive in. That's about right there. And we grab the glaive. Push this piece down so that you can slot the glaive in. Now these pieces here, you can either glue them in place or you can leave them as they are. They're just to keep the glaive from moving when it's on the wall, just so that it doesn't rock forward. And there's the wall plate. So I'm hoping that might could have covered everything that anybody might have questions for or might have issues with. If you do have any issues, feel free to drop a message. I'm more than happy to help you work through any issues that you might have. Yeah, so that's me signing off. Remember, the power of the glaive is yours to command.